So when I was real little, we moved around a lot for my dad's job, and we did 4 moves in 4 years. When I was really young, we went Northern California, Louisiana, New Hampshire, and then back to Southern California. And for me, I was 4, 5, 6 when we were doing these moves. It gave me like some wanderlust, some appreciation for change and new things. For my brother, who is 5 years older than me, it gave him this huge sense of sentimentality and liking things to stay the same and enjoyment of traditions. I remember in Louisiana one time, so I was 5 years old, my brother's 10, and we were arguing about something, and I decided that I was going to get back at him by spraying some of my little girl dime store perfume on him, right? And he was not having it. And he wrestled me to the ground. He has me down by my shoulders, and he's got the spit hanging out of his mouth over my face. And I'm 5, I'm panicking. I've got to get out of this situation. I managed to wrestle myself away from him, and then I've got to get back at him. And so I grab the first thing I can, and I grab the vacuum cleaner cord, and I am lassoing that baby around, and I just wing it at him. And the prongs of the cord go across his stomach, and he just doubles over in pain. And I'm a little girl. I can't believe that I've hurt my big brother. And it just hit me how much I loved him. And I never wanted to fight with him again. And I just vowed to myself that I'm never going to physically fight with him anymore. And from now on, it's a love fest. And that's how we did it, right? And so we moved back to Southern California. And even though there was a 5-year age difference, we got along thick as thieves. We were in it together. Whether we were ganging up against my goofy parents, we had each other's back. And we didn't have a ton of things in common. He was into fast cars and rock music, and I was a little girl, and I was into cheerleading and school, but we always would find our common ground. We had a big extended family, so we would go have fun with them, and then our big thing, though, our big thing that we liked to do together was go to the movies. And so whether my parents took us or whether as we got older and older, we would go by ourselves, we'd always go see a good movie and share a box of Red Vines. That was our thing. And so I did pretty good on my vow never to cause my brother pain again. I held on to that for a long time. And then there came a time when I was married, and my husband and I decided that we wanted to take our young son and we wanted to leave Southern California. And we were going to move to Reno, Nevada. And so my mom and dad weren't psyched about that. My brother was not psyched about that, but we thought that was the right thing to do. And then inflict a little more pain when 9 months later my parents decided to follow us to Reno, Nevada, right? Lower cost of living, only grandchild, casinos, you get the picture, right? And so they followed us, but all was not lost. We were still going to see Steve. We would go down for visits. He would come up for visits. And luckily, Reno is a nice little pit stop on the way to the Bonneville Salt Flats, and that was Steve's yearly pilgrimage. Every summer, he would go to Speed Week at the Bonneville Salt Flats and indulge his love of race cars. So if you don't know what the Bonneville Salt Flats are, I'll give you a little movie reference. In the movie Independence Day, when Will Smith is walking through the desert dragging the parachute of the alien, that is the Bonneville Salt Flats. It's a dry riverbed. It's one of the largest open spaces in the world. It's one of the few places in the world where you can actually see the horizon, or you can see the shape of the earth in the horizon. It is that flat, and racers go there to break speed records. So Reno's on the way to Bonneville. Steve comes to visit us, and he's not so much in emotional pain from missing us as that summer he was in physical pain. Something was wrong with his back, and he had one of those crazy HMOs, and so he was waiting for the referral, for the whatever, to get his MRI, and his doctor thought that he had a slipped disc or something, and they're just waiting for that MRI appointment. And he makes it through a visit with us with lots of painkillers, and he goes to Speed Week, and he meets his best buddy, Pat, there. That's who he goes with every year. And he gets through with a lot of painkillers, and then he goes home, And the day of the MRI appointment is finally there, and the doctor is sick, and so they have to postpone it again. But Steve never made it to the MRI appointment. He collapsed in his apartment from the pain, and his legs weren't working any longer. And he had to go to the emergency room, and they finally ran all the tests, and he had a big growth around his spine, like an octopus, and it was cancer. And fast forward through surgeries and radiation and chemotherapy and hopes up and hopes down, to eventually when he went on hospice because the cancer was in his bones and he could no longer walk, and it was just not worth fighting any longer. And on one of our many visits to see him, it was like, what do you want to do? Do you want to talk about this? And he didn't want to talk about it. He wanted to live, and he wanted to enjoy every minute he had left, so he was like, I want to watch movies. And so we watched movies, and we ate red vines, and one of the last movies we watched together was It's Complicated with Alec Baldwin and Meryl Streep, and we just laughed our asses off, and it was a really, really good time. And then I was privileged to be there a few weeks later when Steve's pain ended. And then that summer, Steve's wife and I, she flew up to Reno, and we drove out to Bonneville, and we met best friend Pat, and we met all the other race car drivers, and we had this oatmeal container full of Steve's ashes. He would have loved that, right, at Quaker Oats. And the race car driver allowed us to put the ashes into the parachute. And so then as that race car driver finished his race and the parachute bloomed, Steve's race ended too.